Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into some genuine puzzles from our past. We're looking at objects that are so advanced or so weirdly out of place that they really make you second guess the entire timeline of human history we've all been taught. We tend to picture history as this nice, straight line, a steady march forward from, say, stone tools to smartphones. But what if that's just not how it happened? What if ancient cultures hit these incredible peaks of knowledge, mastered amazing technologies, and then it all just disappeared? The artifacts we're about to explore suggest that history might be less of a straight line and more of a spiral, with incredible highs followed by devastating collapses. So there's actually a name for these historical head-scratchers. Out-of-place artifacts, or OOPArts for short. And that's exactly what they are. Items that, based on everything we think we know, just shouldn't exist. They're either way too technologically advanced for their time, or they show up in a place they have absolutely no business being. You could almost call them glitches in our historical matrix. So let's start with impossible technology. We're talking about devices that show a level of scientific and mechanical genius that, according to the textbooks, really shouldn't have been possible for another 1,000 years, sometimes even more. Okay, first up, take a look at the Antikythera mechanism. Back in 1901, some sponge divers were exploring an ancient Roman shipwreck and pulled up this lump of corroded bronze. For decades, it just sat in a museum. Nobody really paid it much mind, figuring it was just another chunk of junk from the seafloor. And then, one day, it cracked open. And what was inside is what's so incredible. We're talking about 37 interlocking bronze gears. Once scientists got a look with X-rays, they realized this thing was an astonishingly sophisticated analog computer. By turning a little hand crank, it could predict the positions of the sun, the moon, and the planets. It could track the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. And it could even forecast eclipses, and it was smart enough to account for the moon's wonky orbit. I mean, nothing this mechanically complex shows up again in Europe until the massive cathedral clocks of the 14th and 15th centuries. And that right there is the core mystery. How did they do it? To build something like this, you don't just need to be a master craftsman. You need a profound understanding of astronomy and how gear trains work, knowledge that historians thought was either totally lost or maybe never even existed back then. And sure, some studies suggest it might have had some design flaws, but honestly, the fact that it was even conceived of in the first place is what's so mind-blowing. It suggests there was this whole tradition of advanced mechanics that has been almost completely wiped from the history books. All right, let's move on to another technological riddle. This one was found near Baghdad. It's just a simple-looking clay pot, but it's over 2,000 years old. Inside, there was a copper cylinder, and right in the middle of that was an iron rod, held in place with a plug made of asphalt. Now, if that setup sounds a little familiar to you, well, it should, because those components are basically a textbook example of a simple galvanic cell. In other words, a battery. And people have done experiments. If you fill this jar with something acidic, like vinegar or even grape juice, it can actually produce about 1.4 volts of electricity. So the big question is, what for? Some people think it could have been used for electroplating, coating silver with a thin layer of gold. But here's the counterargument, and it's a big one. Archaeologists have never, ever found a single electroplated artifact from that time period. The more mainstream idea is that these were probably just fancy storage jars for sacred scrolls, and the metal bits just happened to look like a battery as they corroded over time. So yeah, the debate is still pretty charged. Okay, so from impossible technology, let's switch gears to impossible information. We're talking about ancient manuscripts and inscriptions that are written in languages or codes that, even with centuries of work from the world's best codebreakers, are still complete and utter gibberish to us. Say hello to the Voynich manuscript. This might just be the most mysterious book in the entire world. It's a 240-page medieval text filled with this elegant, flowing script and some seriously bizarre illustrations. The catch? Absolutely no one on Earth can read a single word of it. And once you look inside, the mystery just gets deeper. The pages are filled with drawings of plants that don't match any known species on Earth. There are these complex star charts of constellations we don't recognize. And then there are these really weird diagrams of women bathing in tubs of green liquid, all connected by this intricate network of tubes. The script itself is totally unique. It looks like it was written by someone who is fluent in it, but it also has these statistical patterns that make a simple code pretty much impossible. So what is it? A lost language, an unbreakable cipher, or just the most beautiful and elaborate hoax in history? We still have absolutely no clue. Now here's another linguistic puzzle, but this one's much, much older. This is the Phaistos disc. It was found on the island of Crete, and it dates all the way back to the Minoan civilization in the Bronze Age, around 1700 BCE. It's a disc of baked clay, and as you can see, it's covered on both sides with this spiral of stamped symbols. And after more than 100 years of intense study, nobody has cracked it. The symbols are unlike any other writing system we know of. The theories about what it is are all over the place. Some think it's a sacred hymn, others a list of soldiers, maybe even some kind of ancient board game. Without some kind of Rosetta Stone to help us unlock it, its real purpose is still one of archaeology's greatest unsolved mysteries. All right, for our next section, we're going to scale up, way up, from objects you can hold in your hand to massive, monumental structures. And there's one site in particular that has basically forced us to completely rewrite a fundamental chapter in the story of humanity, the very dawn of civilization. Welcome to Göbekli Tepe, which means Potbelly Hill, in southeastern Turkey. What you're looking at here is a huge complex of stone circles. They're built from these T-shaped limestone pillars that weigh up to 10 tons apiece. And a lot of them are covered with these incredible, detailed carvings of animals, lions, scorpions, vultures. It's an amazing feat of engineering. But what makes it truly, truly mind-boggling is how old it is. This timeline really puts it all into perspective. Göbekli Tepe was built around 10,000 BCE. Okay, let that sink in. That makes it 7,000 years older than Stonehenge and 7,000 years older than the first pyramids in Egypt. This isn't just the world's oldest known temple. It's the oldest megalithic structure we've ever found, period. And the people who built it? They were supposedly just simple hunter-gatherers. So the discovery of Göbekli Tepe just completely flips a core theory of civilization on its head. The old idea was pretty simple. First came agriculture. That allowed people to settle down in one place, grow a surplus of food, and then, with all that extra time and resources, they developed complex religion and society. But Göbekli Tepe suggests the complete opposite happened. It looks like hunter-gatherers came together to build this massive ceremonial center before they even invented farming. It implies that the urge to worship, to come together for these big, shared rituals, might have been the spark that created civilization, not the other way around. And for our last stop, let's look at a case where the mystery isn't just the artifact itself, but the whole scientific process around it. This is a discovery that is so controversial that a lot of archaeologists won't even touch it, all because of how the evidence was found. So back in 2000, off the coast of India in the Gulf of Kambat, an ocean institute was doing pollution surveys when their sonar picked up what looked like huge geometric structures deep underwater. Later dives claimed to have found what looked like city-like formations. The big controversy really blew up when a piece of wood which was dredged up from the area was carbon dated to 7500 BCE. But mainstream archaeology is, let's say, deeply skeptical, and the main issue is the methodology. Everything was just dredged up. It wasn't a controlled archaeological dig. That means there's no way to prove that the old piece of wood has any connection to the sonar shapes. The wood could have just been from a submerged ancient forest. And the supposed tools and pottery? They could just be naturally shaped rocks or geofacts that got churned up by the Gulf's super strong currents. So, what do we do with all these puzzles? The Antikythera mechanism, the Voynich manuscript, Göbekli Tepe, they really force us to be a little more humble about what we think we know about the past. They suggest that the story of human civilization wasn't this simple, straight line of progress. It was a far more complicated story, with moments of brilliance, lost knowledge, and entire chapters that we're only just now starting to uncover. Now, it's really important to be clear here. The existence of these strange objects is not proof of ancient aliens or some mythical lost city like Atlantis. That's a huge leap, and the evidence simply does not support it. The real value of these OU parts is how they challenge our assumptions. They show us the absolute edge of our own knowledge and remind us that history isn't a closed book. Our ancestors were more clever, more complex, and way more mysterious than we usually give them credit for. Ultimately, these objects are a testament to human ingenuity, both for the people who made them and for our own relentless drive to understand them. They prove that the past isn't a settled story. It's an active, ongoing investigation. And it really makes you wonder, what incredible discovery is buried out there right now, just waiting to be found and rewrite history all over again? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer as we explored these fascinating puzzles from the past.